Hey, welcome to Black and Black Times Infinity. I'm your host, Cronus, and it's just me. So, yeah. Sorry, we had a lot of people kind of just fall out of the podcast tonight. Old Ninja is dealing with some personal stuff, and Blue has an interview on Friday he has to prepare for. So, you just get me for a little while. Probably not for that long, because I didn't prepare for a solo show tonight. But at least y'all get to hear my voice and see my face for a little bit. I can still do some of the stats, even though it's kind of hard to do when it's just me. But I could tell you that listener of the week would be Josh P. Wright. Thank you very much for watching or listening. Definitely appreciate it. And in the chat, nobody yet, but I will give you a shout out once you enter the chat. There actually was a few things that I wanted to talk to all of you about tonight. And especially Prodigy, because we are a little bit more plugged into politics than I think the other podcast members. Some crazy shit happened today with I can't even pronounce the guy's name because it's very Russian. Yevgeny Prigozhin, the leader of the Wagner group, probably got murdered by Vladimir Putin, which is pretty crazy. And tonight's the Republican debates without Trump, which is weird. Trump's doing like a thing with Tucker Carlson, and he's going to do it on Twitter, or I'm sorry, X. I put it in air quotes because X is a terrible name for a social media platform. Just it's Twitter. So yeah, that was a lot of shit like that going on today. I'm not going to go too far into it though. There was a lot of gaming news that actually came out today that if I was prepared to do a solo podcast for, I would have like written it all down, had a list, and then talked to you all about it and give you my thoughts. But I can tell you about the game that I am playing right now. It's called Immortals of Aveum. Which is pretty good. It's basically Call of Duty, but with magic. What's going on, Dan? Rescue Residents in the house. Appreciate it, man. So yeah, Immortals of Aveum is kind of touted as Call of Duty, but with magic, and it honestly was better than I expected. It's getting some mixed reviews, but I think it's pretty cool. The voice acting is excellent, and the dialogue is actually not bad. So I'm really surprised that it has like a decent story. It's not a bad story. It's not a great story, but it's not a bad story. And the dialogue is pretty good, and I like it. I love that the combat system is dope. You have like 3 different like schools of magic you can do, and it's been great. So I'm playing that. I'm waiting for Baldur's Gate 3, which Dan just talked about in the chat. Baldur's Gate 3 came out a little while ago. Actually, technically, it came out a long time ago for early access, but I've been playing it on the Steam Deck, and unfortunately, it doesn't really play that well on the Steam Deck. So I'm actually going to wait for it to drop on the PS5 to play for a couple of reasons. One is the graphical improvements over my Steam Deck, because the Steam Deck is not designed to run like a AAA title at like decent settings, so it just doesn't look great on the Steam Deck. And another reason I want to play it on the PS5 is because it has co-op on there, and I want to be able to play co-op with some friends. For once, because I've gotten away from doing that for a number of years, and I would like to get into some co-op again. I want to make some time to game with friends, and Baldur's Gate 3 is just, it's a really fun fucking game so far. I know Ahsoka came out yesterday. It was supposed to drop today, but apparently they released it a little bit early, and I think going forward it's going to be released on Tuesdays, which is great. For me, because I can watch it on Tuesdays, but because of we have a 48-hour rule on a podcast where we don't talk about, especially TV shows and movies and stuff, 48 hours after it comes out, because I don't want to spoil. But what I can say though is that I really, really like Ahsoka. Y'all know the main reason why. It's because Rosario Dawson is my Canadian girlfriend. So anything she's in, well, not anything she's in, I'm gonna watch it, but if she's in, I'll be more inclined to watch it. And Ahsoka Tano is a really cool character, in the Star Wars universe. If you watched any of the old like Star Wars Rebels or any other like animated shows, there's heavy references to that whole universe. Ezra is referenced in like the first. Oh, maybe I am spoiling. Actually, no, not really. I mean, you should probably expect this, right? If you're into fucking Star Wars, and if you're not, you wouldn't understand what I'm talking about anyway. So it's gonna be a surprise. But yeah, there's like heavy references to like the animated Star Wars universe in the show, and I really like that. The production value is quite good. I think people are gonna really dig it. So it's kind of a mix between like a semi-slow burn, the semi-slow burn of say, what was it? Of like Andor, but then the heavy action of that you would expect with a traditional Star Wars show. So I like the mix of those two things in this show. So if y'all have a chance to watch it, I highly recommend you watch it. I watched the first one and a half. I'm gonna watch the other one probably tomorrow. Yeah, probably tomorrow. And yeah, I'm gonna enjoy it. It's kind of weird because it's gonna be a weekly thing, which I have to get used to, like having to wait for episodes to come out. But I'm actually getting more used to that now because I've started watching Bleach, Thousand Year Blood War, and it's episodic every week, and it's a fantastic show. But it's anime, and it's weird that I kind of forgot what it's like to wait for shows to come out, which is kind of weird. I think my generation has been like this weird bridge of like old time and new time stuff. Like we remember, in the older times when we had to get TV guides to know when fucking shows were coming on. And TV guides, I mean, they probably still exist. I doubt it, but they definitely don't serve the same purpose as they do now. Because even when cable came out, when cable TV came out, there was no guide like on cable. Cable TV was still just like old school like transmissions where you just have to wait for the show to come out and then like have to read the TV guide to know when things are coming out. And if you missed it, you either had to have enough money to have a VHS system set up and have a timer to record it, or you just fucking missed that shit. You had to wait for a rerun or for the show to come out on actual tape, which is very weird. This is very different from like today where, if you miss a show today, like it's fine. Like it's going to be streamed somewhere or on demand somewhere, and you're going to be fine. And these are just things that people just kind of forgot about that we had to deal with back in the day, back in the old times. Seeing the progression of various technologies throughout my lifetime has been like a really strange phenomenon. Like seeing the whole transition of social media back in the day. For me, I started using the internet when it was back in the BBS days, the bulletin boards, and it was bulletin boards. And I remember when Prodigy came out, and that's when we had chat rooms and stuff. And then AOL came out, and then the AOL is like, that's when like the internet kind of started blowing up. Was in like the AOL days, America Online, because they had a bunch of people get online, and that's when you had chat rooms and like groups and stuff like that, and just you got access to like so many people, and then that's where it just kind of blew up. That was kind of like the pre-social media thing. And then years later we got MySpace, and that was like probably the first big social media platform that blew up. And even when MySpace first came out, there wasn't like this weird like political view thing on MySpace. You just wanted to connect with your friends that you missed when you were in high school with them, and that you grew up and now you had to move somewhere else, and it was easier to catch up, especially back in the day when people aren't. Just another weird technology thing. This might be a technology fucking weird tangent podcast for a minute. Is that back in the day some of us had cell phones. I've had a cell phone since 1999, and I've had the same number since 99. But back in the day, like if you made a phone call like in the middle of the day, it cost like a lot of money. Like it was super weird. You had to wait for like after hours to like make a phone call, and it was going to be like quote unquote free or whatever. So when MySpace came out, you can message people, through your computer like way easier. Obviously, you had like chat programs too, but it was cool to have like somebody's page, and like you could get like somebody's curated life like through their page. And I thought that was like really neat. But back then, like there was no like huge controversies on like visiting somebody's page. Like you didn't have to. People weren't, I guess, putting themselves out there like that. With like more controversial stuff back then, maybe because it was so new. I don't know. It wasn't like today, and even like back when like Facebook came out, it wasn't even that bad. It's just kind of a more recent thing. I'd say that within the past probably 6-7 years, it's gotten kind of progressively bad with that kind of stuff, and like seeing some of the things. I guess it's from like both ends. Like if things you probably don't want to see, and sides of your friends or that used to be friends that you don't want to see, and yeah, that got kind of weird, and it's still kind of weird. There's people that I'm friends with in real life that I'm not friends with on Facebook because of their views on stuff, and even then it's kind of like I avoid topics with them, you know, because I just don't want to talk about that kind of shit. So, and like get in like some huge big argument. I don't know if that's the best way to go, but it's a way that you can, or at least I can, stay in contact with somebody that I at least used to have like a lot of respect for. I might have like lost some, but at least I can still communicate with them by avoiding certain subjects, which is just kind of weird. No, I have not listened to the song "The Rich Men North of Richmond" yet. I know it's a new country song. Hopefully, it's a direct contrast to that terrible song about lynching that people didn't realize was a song about lynching, but every black person realized was a song about lynching. So, or anybody that's familiar with sundown towns and lynchings and the real history of America. Yeah, so I hope that Rich Men of the North is a contrast to that. If it is, I might listen to it. I mean I listened to that whole "Try That in a Small Town" terrible song, and it was doubly terrible because first of all I fucking hate country music, and then second of all it was a song about lynching. So, and it's fucking bullshit. And I know it's the number one song in country, which hopefully it's sending a more appropriate message on how to treat people, and really try. And it says "Rich Men of North of Richmond." I would assume that they're talking about sort of the co-opting of country music. It's really just anti-big government. Okay. All right. Well, I'll check it out. I'll see what it's about. So. A lot of people are anti-big government for some stuff, but I'll listen to the song first before I pass judgment. I'll begrudgingly grind my teeth and go see a dentist and listen to another fucking country song. Thanks. What else has been going on in the news today? Or actually throughout the past week, I guess. I think I mentioned it about the debates coming on, which I'm probably going to watch tomorrow. I'm looking for a house to live in because it's time to buy another house, which I think I mentioned it on the podcast previously. But it's time to buy, but it's also a shitty time to buy. Oh, okay. Oh, all right. That's a all right. I'm reading one of the lines that Dan just put in the chat, and it said a line from the song is, "I wish politicians would look out for minors, not just minors on an island somewhere." Which, I mean, you could do both. So you could do both. Also, like mining here in America is like those jobs kind of went away a while ago, unfortunately, or fortunately. I mean, it's both. It's unfortunate for the miners, but it's fortunate for I don't know, the fucking environment or some shit. So, yeah, my answer to that is probably we could do both, take care of both, because everybody has needs. Oh, the Epstein miners. Okay, I gotcha. Yeah, okay, that's pretty fucking gross. I didn't pick up on that. He's talking about like the kids from like, yeah, it's gross. So, okay. I mean, somebody should definitely look out for them too, but in like a not gross way. Like, make sure they don't get, I can't say the words on YouTube because it'll be I'll get demonetized. But you know what that guy did. You know what the people around him did. People that were in pictures with him, like the ex-president. So, and other people, like Bill Gates and some other folks that. Yeah. Anyway. Oh, I wanted to say congratulations to India. If y'all didn't know, this is funny because I've read through like some of the comments on iTunes about this podcast, and there was like more than one comment. There was actually multiple comments about talking about how we have like a range of topics that we talk about, and sometimes people that listen to this podcast don't really pay attention to the news at all. So if we are your sort of small content of news, then here's something you probably didn't hear about at all today, is that India landed a spacecraft on the moon, on one of the poles, which is the first time a spacecraft has been landed on the poles. I don't know how to pronounce the name of the spacecraft. English Chanda something, I have to look it up, which I can't do because it's just me tonight. But yeah, so congratulations to India for landing a spacecraft on the moon. And hopefully it will push forward their technologies for that country. If y'all didn't know, if you're not familiar with like the reason why NASA and space exploration is important directly for like humans on Earth right now, because some folks are like, oh, we haven't explored all the Earth yet. 100%, you're right. But also the amount of technology that it takes for humans to put anything into space for a long period of time, it has like a trickle-down effect. Unlike trickle-down economics, I'm just saying there are direct effects to us on Earth. There's a lot of things that NASA developed that directly affect just like common people. Like space-age materials, but like carbon fiber, shit like that, and like aluminum, and different materials that can be used to make things lighter. Different power sources that can be used for various things. All these things, they trickle down eventually into our normal lives, but people just kind of ignore all that shit, because they just see things go into space. But all those things that go into space, it takes like a lot of tech, and the point for that tech is to eventually get cheaper. Well, the point of the tech is to get into space, but there's so many different technologies that are being used in our daily lives that are made cheaper and cheaper and cheaper. Like one of the best examples is like our computing systems. Like Moore's Law is somehow still viable to this day, which I still don't think. At some point it's going to have to stop because you can't keep doubling, the amount of computing power on a chip every, I think it's like two years or something like that. Because we're getting down to a point to where you can only fit so many goddamn transistors onto a chip with our current tech, which is why I think we're trying to get into quantum computing. So, yeah. Oh, sorry, Dan put it in the actual name of the thing. It's not that hard to pronounce, I don't think. The Chandrayaan 3, the Chandrayaan, Chandrayaan 3. Yeah, aerogel is another one. It's a very light, I think it's like a foam material, but it's almost as light or lighter than air. It's like a super light material. And there's like a lot of materials that are out there that we get from space travels. And now I lost my train of thought. This is where having somebody else on the podcast would definitely help to put me back on the train of thought. But you know what? I'm going to have a drink and further forget about what the fuck I was talking about. Yeah. So yeah, just congrats to India and any other country that's trying to get. I was talking about the Moore's Law thing in chips. So there was this whole thing called the CHIPS Act, where we're here in America. We're going to try to. We've basically banned. We've banned China and I think some other countries from our technology with certain computer chips. So there's like certain Dan's probably gonna help me out through this when he catches up with me talking right now. But there's basically current technology computer chips that are crazy fast, and you can use them for a variety of means. One of them could be for AI. Another one could be for playing fucking video games. Or another one could be for, making a very sophisticated, missile system or rocket system. And so what our government has done is they've basically banned China from the current, I think it's like I think it's like 1 or 2 generations of our current chip technology. And we're pulling a bunch of our chip tech back to America. Intel is going to have a very, very slim, a very thin chip coming out, hopefully in the next 5 years, and it's going to push potentially technology forward substantially, and China is not going to have access to that. And it's kind of crazy because when it comes to computer chips, like I said before, you can use them for a lot of things, and America's saying that our concern is that they're going to use it for missile systems, which I get, but it's like they could do other shit with them too, and it's kind of like. But also on the other side, to be honest, this is a very valid argument, is that China has stolen a lot of our technology throughout the years. A lot of our technology, a lot of our patents, they just fucking steal that shit. So, and China's also retaliated against us, which is, they can do that. I think it's gallium is one of the materials that that we need to make these chips, and China is one of the biggest exporters of gallium, and yeah, they're just like, well, if you're not going to give us access to these chips, then have fun making these chips without some of these materials that you need to make these chips. So it's just a very interesting. It almost harkens back to like the Cold War. Like it's not a direct war with like human lives, but it's really war against economies, and war against like technologies. And if y'all are not paying attention to that kind of stuff, you should be. A couple of podcasts you should be listening to that I'm listening to. The Economist is really good. Freakonomics is another one. Marketplace is a great one too. NPR has a host of really good podcasts that span a bunch of different topics, this being one of them. And especially if you don't like watching the news all the time because they're biased, even though NPR and some of these other podcasts are slightly biased, but they're not as bad as other ones. It's nice to just get like chunks of news, because I listen to the ones that are like 30 minutes or less. Some of them are like an hour long, but most of them are like 30 minutes or less. And it's usually just like when I'm getting up in the morning, brushing my teeth, doing the dishes, whatever, putting on my headphones, just like listening to some daily news stuff every day. So I'm caught up with like the news. And it just helps you understand the world more, because I didn't know about like everything that was going on in like Zimbabwe and things that are going on in Niger. A whole bunch of like crazy stuff's going on, but I don't want to make this into like a total political podcast, because that's not what most of you guys, people, want to listen to in this podcast. If you do, I can do like a separate one, maybe, and like break some of this stuff down in my opinion, and it'd be nice. But also, like I said, I didn't want to. This is not going to be a long podcast because it's just me, and like I said, I'm not prepared to have just me podcast. I have some stuff on my screen, but it was just from like old podcast stuff. Like I'm pretty sure Old Ninja said that Gear 5 breaks the internet, but Gears 5 didn't break the internet, because for me the internet fucking worked for a while. I'm just saying. Yes, we can talk about political stuff on Balance Exchange, because that's where we kind of go way more in depth about these issues. Especially we should probably do one about the Chinese about China and the CHIPS Act, because it's more than just what I just said in the past couple of minutes. It's a very long running thing, and I would love to talk to Dan about that and get his thoughts on it, because we both have not necessarily differing opinions, but we definitely have different opinions on these things. Especially him still being in the military, and me being out for a while, so I have a difference of opinion on these things. But they're always really good conversations. I beat Trek to Yomi, which is, I'm going back to games. Sorry, jumping around here. Trek to Yomi, if y'all have not played that game, it was on the PS5. It's like this really crazy, like black and white game where you're a samurai, and it's really cool. And at the end of the game, it had me questioning life choices. I was like, all right, it was just like Spec Ops: The Line. Spec Ops: The Line, played the whole game, and at the end, I was like, why did I do all these things? And I felt kind of terrible. Trek to Yomi, the decisions that you make in the game, they matter. So if you ever play the game, it's a great game. It's a great like side scroller samurai game where you basically get revenge. But yeah, pay attention to your decisions because they matter. And in the end, you might just be the fucking bad guy. I'm just saying. I felt like my morals might be askew after I played that game. Anyway, I'm going to end the podcast here. Sorry it's kind of short. It's only been like, less than 30 minutes. But at least you got something. So next week we'll be back. I will see about dropping another podcast. For my birthday, I did my 44-minute roll. And I have not edited that podcast yet. It'll be a Jitscast. If you're interested in jiu-jitsu at all, I will edit that one sometime this week and drop that one as well. And I'll probably drop another old like S-class interview podcast soon as well. King Arthur, he said, Spec Ops was a horror game and you were the monster. Yes. That game, they need to make a part 2 of that fucking game. Like, seriously. And yeah, Papa Bear in the chat, he also said, I live samurai games, but haven't played any in a long time. Need to get Ghost of Tsushima and eventually play. Bruh, you need to get Ghost of Tsushima for real. That's like the best samurai game, like fucking ever. Like seriously, it's one of the best games to me of all time. Like it's up there. It's in probably like the top 25. So it's a really, really great game. If you love samurai games, you feel like a samurai in that game. Anyway, wrapping it up. I'm going to edit this podcast. I'm going to play some more Immortals of Aveum because the game is fun. And yeah, sorry for the short one, but at least you got something. And you know what? That's it. This is Cronus. I'm out this bitch. Peace.